Welcome back to another episode of Greels, Reels, everyone. I'm your host, Robert Greeley, and today we have fellow Ottawa alumnus, Osas Obas, joining us, a defensive tackle who is now super interested into the content creation world of things, photography, video, all that stuff. So we actually have a wide variety of chats here from football to content creation. It's a lot of fun. He is an incredible individual. I actually remember one of the first times I met him, we went and got ice cream, me, him, and Tremaine. Really good dude, and without further ado, we're going to get right into it. But before we do, I need you all to do me a favor. If you're watching us on YouTube right now, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It really helps these episodes perform better and get it out to more people. And if you're listening to the audio version, please share us with a friend. Hit that 5-star review. But listen, I'm your host, Robert Greeley, and this is Greels Reels. Enjoy. The time is finally here. Osas, it took us a minute, but we got you on. How's it going, bud?
Oh my God, it's an honor to be here, man. I'm good. And you?
Man, I can't complain. It's nice to see your face. You always got that big smile on. You you doing many TikTok dances this evening? You working on that TikTok or what?
Actually, I went snowboarding today, and let me tell you, I'm sore. I'm sore. So, I just took a power nap, and that was it.
Man, I checked your story and I seen you on the slopes, and I was like, I'm gonna just send him a little message and be like, "You still good for tonight?"
Yeah.
You ate shit though.
Listen, when I got there, I was trying to find the baby hill, but there was no directions to which hill was the baby hill. So I just went up one hill thinking it was a baby hill. Got there, it was the hardest one. Oh my God. Let me tell you, I
They
was
put you
hurt.
on a black diamond when you were just looking for the bunny hill.
Exactly. That's what happened. And it was so steep.
Were you scared at all?
I'm, oh yeah, yeah. Not
Yeah.
even gonna lie. Not even gonna lie. I got up there, I was like, oh my God, this is so steep. It's my first time at Mont Cascade. And I was just like, but it was a good day, except for that part I ate shit.
So where's this hill to?
It's in Mont Cascade, so it's 20 minutes from my house, in Gatineau.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
How
nice
did I
spot.
never hear about that?
I, I don't think a lot of people know about it. Usually people go to Camp Fortune.
Yeah, or Tremblant, right?
Yeah, correct. So I'm trying to get ready for Tremblant. I'm trying to go to Tremblant in February.
Try not to embarrass yourself basically because Tremblant's got the heavy traffic, so you're just practicing on the low
Correct.
key hill slopes.
Correct. Got me practicing with the babies.
Oh man. So listen, tell me a little bit now just about your childhood and growing up and really what you aspire to be at a young age.
um, Growing up, to be quite honest, coming from a Nigerian home, my parents would push me to be a doctor, engineer, and all that, but I never really was feeling it. So I'd say I wanted to be a cop when I grew up. Well, when I was growing up, I guess.
Mhm.
But then I got introduced to sports, so soccer. Started off playing soccer, was okay at soccer, and then got introduced to basketball. Oh, I'll be an NBA player. And I got introduced to football, so I was like, oh, I'll play professional football, and I actually stuck with football growing up, all the way up until university, and that didn't work out. And then I picked up a camera, just
Yeah.
and so ever since, I've just been using my camera, trying to, share my vision through my pictures.
Now, how did you first kind of handle and deal with that pressure coming from your parents? As you mentioned, they wanted you to go into that path of like engineer or doctor because I'm curious because I kind of did the same thing, right? Like your parents are a little bit unsure of like this career path in terms of like multimedia and they want you to be successful. So they're just always kind of like, hey, like maybe push it to somewhere there. But then obviously it kind of gets to a point where they recognize, oh yeah, okay, there's some levels of success. I'm curious about like your process through that with your parents.
I think they kind of accepted me not becoming a engineer or doctor when I started playing football more seriously. So like
Mhm.
in high school when they saw like, oh, like he's actually good at football. So like that kind of like took away a little bit more of like I'd say pressure.
Mhm.
And so when I went into college in Montreal, like I was playing at a high level and I was like a social science student. They're like, okay, like, he's a social science student, but he's pretty good at football, so he might, push through with football. And then when I moved to Ottawa, I think that's when it was like, okay, yeah, like he's not gonna be a doctor or something like that.
They just they just called time of death. Osas is not being a doctor the day he
Yeah, like I told my dad, like when I first started university, like I was a special student, and then I got into my program, and my dad was like, "So what are you gonna do?" I was like, "Oh, psychology." He's like, "What? Like, what are you gonna do with that?" Listen, I'm just playing football, and I'll figure the rest out after. And now he's just like, as long as you graduated, like, that's all that matters.
hmm So now tell me about those early days of playing football. Like, what's your first memory of the game?
I still remember my head coach in high school walked up to me. He was like, "Hey, you're a big dude. You should come play football." I was like, "Nah." Like, I'm looking at these guys like tackling each other, going head to head. I was not into that. And then when I first put on my shoulder pads and helmet, I was like, "What am I doing?" And then it just came naturally. And next thing you know, like we had this rule in Quebec. It's like if you're over 160 pounds, like you have to play D line or O line. So I feel like I kind of got cheated. Could have played running back or receiver. But yeah, we just played, and I remember like my first tackle, like it was on a football field, and my coach was just like, "Yo, just put your head down and just take him out." I was like, "All right," and took his head off, and ever since, like that's how like it pretty much started for me.
Now, are you arguing? You're like, no, 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 listen, I'm 158. Like, this is just water weight. Like, put me at running back.
Honestly, I was ignorant, so I was just like, "Oh, okay." Like I didn't know anything about football at the time,
hmm
so I was just like, "Okay, like how do I play? How do I position myself?" Like I still remember like my coach trying to like, "Okay, put your hands down. Now look up." And it was such an uncomfortable position. I was like, "There's no way like players are actually comfortable in this position." And just with time, like I got used to it, and then that went on.
So they drew you to the defensive line right away, or was there a little
Yeah,
bit of back and forth?
no, they put me straight on D line, and I
Did you,
stayed there.
yeah, did you have any aspiration to switch over to O line at any time?
Never, not O line, but like I wanted to be a linebacker,
hmm
but I was always too heavy to play linebacker. And then when I actually got the chance to play linebacker in college, I noticed I wasn't smart enough to play linebacker. Like I'm not no Kadeem or anything like that. So like that was that. And then when I got to university, like we had some like our first year, I believe, or second year, like I was playing linebacker at certain formations, and it was too much for me. I was like, mm. So shout outs to JV for keeping me on the D line.
So why do you think you weren't smart enough to play linebacker?
I think I wasn't exposed enough to the position when I was younger. So because at D line, pretty much you either go forward or you're going inside, left or right. Like you don't have to think too much. Linebacker, ugh. But yeah,
Yeah, no, there's a lot of knowledge that goes in that linebacking position. I mean, just within like the blitz packages and things of that nature, and it's like, oh, am I going to drop back into coverage on this play now too? And
yeah. Reading the O line, looking at the running back, making sure it's a run before you drop into a pass. Like too much. D line, you just go.
now, when did you realize that you could continue this at a post secondary level? I'm guessing throughout high school.
Yeah, it would be like after my first year of high school, like I got invited to playing for Team Quebec, and at the time I didn't know like how important that was or how big that was. And then we ended up winning that championship year, so we were champions of Canada. I still got my trophy and my ring somewhere. And that's actually when I met JV for the first time. So it was like back in 2007, 2008 ish.
He
And
wasn't even with the GGs at that time.
no, he was with Sherbrooke, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He maybe even Montreal. No, it wouldn't have been CFL. Would it?
He was with Sherbrooke, and then I think he went to Montreal after.
Oh, okay.
But that was when I was like, oh, like this is it, like
What
I'm
was your
good.
first impression of JV then?
You sure he's not a player? Like JV, like how high energy he is,
Yeah.
like there's no way you can't like love JV's energy.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever seen the clip of me and JV racing?
No, where was it?
A couple of players posted it now, but I honestly, it's definitely in somebody's Snapchat memories, but more or less, someone asked me if I could beat JV in a race, and I was like, always bet on yourself mentality. So
Yeah.
I'm like 100%. And then Mike White was like, I'll put $100, like I'll give you $100 if you win. And I'm like, okay, like 100% I'm gonna do that. Like it's
Yeah.
no loss for me. Like I have everything to gain. JV has everything to lose, basically. So I'm just like, yeah, 100%. I'm gonna try and make this an effort and get my $100. And if anything, got the guys out of meetings for like 5 minutes. But yeah,
Yeah.
I raced them and I lost big time. Like the thing is, I had a strategy going into it. I thought he was going to essentially kind of mock and like stay with me through it the whole thing and maybe like even turn around backwards and kind of like taunt me a little. And then at the very end, while he was doing that, before he could kind of take off and win, I was going to dive to the finish line and that would have been like my victory.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he just was like, nope. And then I was probably like, I lost the race before it even started, but yeah, no. So
Isn't it
he's
crazy
quite the
how
athlete.
yeah, isn't he crazy how athletic he still is and how strong he is like at his age? Like
Well, like the guys were chirping me for it, and I'm like, dude, he's like a former track athlete, like CFL. I'm
yeah.
like, also too, I forget now. I think it was Damien. He beat like another linebacker like 2 months before that, or a month after that, or something like that. Like, dude's fast,
JV, yeah, yeah.
but yeah, no, he's yeah, that makes sense. How your first impression is like, is he still playing? Because that would have even been like you can almost look at him now and be like, "Are you still playing?" And like
Yeah,
that was 14 years ago. You're talking about now.
honestly. Wow. Wow. I didn't even think about it like that. That's
Did
impressive.
you have any conversations with him? Like, was he kind of like, "Oh yeah, like come to Sherbrooke, like Sherbrooke's a great."
Yeah, yeah. I know he was like after that tournament, he's like, you're definitely gonna come play for me. At the time he was at Sherbrooke, he's like, so you'll come out to Sherbrooke. And the tournament was in Sherbrooke, and I was like, "There's no way I'm gonna come play in Sherbrooke. Like, it's so dead and boring here. Like, there's nothing to do." It's like we just went back and forth, and then when I made my decision to go play in college, like he came up to me in college, and he was like, "So you're still gonna come play for me, right?" I was like, "Yeah, we'll see." Like, I just started college. Let me figure it out. And at the time, I wanted to play in the States, but didn't work out because I didn't write my SATs, so I had to pick a Canadian college.
Was there any particular reason why you decided not to write the SAT?
I just wasn't how would I say it? Like the coaches that were surrounding me, I would say like I don't want to say like it's their fault, but like they didn't really like help me if I could say it like that.
Hmm.
So like they were more like, "Oh, you should play Canadian college, like you should play football in Canada." And I really wanted to write my SATs, to be quite honest. Like I even went to the States, did a few camps, and so yeah.
Was there any interest from those camps?
I wouldn't be able to tell you yes or no. Like I know like when I went to Ohio for the Nike um forgot what it's called. It was some Nike camp that they had in Toronto, and yeah, like I had a few eyes on me, but like I wouldn't be able to tell you like they didn't talk to me or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I'm curious because it's almost like as you kind of go through each step and things and you do camp, sometimes there's more chatter and you kind of maybe get a little bit more amped for it. And then there's just more people in your ear. And sometimes
Yeah,
exactly what you want to do might get lost.
yeah. So
So
I
now,
think that was what happened pretty much.
mhm. And then going back to representing Quebec, how's that feel? Because, like you said, you didn't really realize it in the moment how big of a deal that is. But I mean, when you think in terms of like prospects in Canada, the majority are always coming from like Ontario and Quebec because of the like the
Yeah,
population, right? So I mean, when you're making Team Quebec, like not to hate on Newfoundland, my whole province, but I mean, you're beating out a lot more people than the person who makes
yeah,
Team NL, right?
yeah. It was like looking back at it, like I made it the first year and then I made it the second year. The second year, like I actually took it in because we traveled to Saskatchewan, so it was my first time flying around Canada. And so when we got to Saskatchewan, I was just like, man, like, this is Team Quebec, like this is part of the best players, like, and just going through that whole training camp process, like getting cut or not, like that was the most stressful thing ever. So like to get like if you got if you got cut, they would knock on your door to let you know that you got cut. And some of the guys were going around like they already knew they made the team, so they were going around knocking on people's door. So they knocked on my door, and I was like, "There's no way I'm getting sent home." So I opened the door, and it's just the guys messing with me, and then it was funny. And then like when we made that final roster, like most of the guys, like I still talk to this day, and it's just the experience being able to represent like your province, like that's a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something that I've never had the pleasure of doing, so I'm certainly jealous of you. I feel like my dumbass would almost order food in the hotel room, forget about it, then knock on the door, and I'd be like, "Oh man, I'm getting cut," and then I open the door and it'd just be like my pizza or something like that.
That would have been something that could have happened too. But listen, I remember our camp was in like somewhere in Quebec or so, and the day after we were flying to Saskatchewan, so we decided to go out and drink. Listen, we were all hungover on the plane. It
Ooh.
was the worst experience ever. I felt bad for the flight host the flight attendant, because she had to go up and down, like trying to give us bags to throw up in.
Oh my gosh. Was it I was it just you guys on the plane too, or was there some
No, there were actually like families on the plane too, which was kind of funny. But they're like,
oh,
"Oh, like you guys are representing Quebec. Like, good luck to you guys. We're Team Ontario, but."
you're like, "Hold on a second. Thank you very much."
Yeah, that was good times, man.
So wait, was that on the way to Saskatchewan or on the way back?
To Saskatchewan,
Oh, okay. So you were just like, "Hey, yeah, like last kind of night in Quebec, let's party it up and get
pretty
it."
much. Yeah.
Oh
Oh my
man.
god, that was good times.
What was the week like in Saskatchewan?
So we got to Saskatchewan, got off the plane, went straight to University of Saskatchewan, I think,
Yeah.
where our dorms were. Lots of meetings, mandatory ice baths after practices. Um, that too was my first time ever being introduced to an ice bath.
What's your go-to strategy with that?
I just try not to do it. But honestly, like I just go for it. Like if you wait, like if you baby yourself into an ice bath, you're gonna just hate it. But if you just go for it, you're good.
A little bit of a cannonball.
Almost. I just hate it like when people come and throw ice in it. Like, listen, it's already cold enough. The human body is not supposed to do that.
I can see you now just like yeah, I feel like you're in the locker room just like at the sink throwing some water on yourself and walking past the trainers being like, "No, I already did it. I already did it. See, I'm wet."
Walk out the shower and just like, yeah, I just took my ice bath. But little did I know they had a checklist of who took their ice baths.
So you did try to do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was not trying to take an ice bath. Like I hate cold, 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 cold water. But how's that? and then just hanging out with the guys, after practice, just getting to know each other. And that was the time. That was at the time where everybody was making their decisions on where they're gonna play, like siege of football. So at the time, I was supposed to go to Vanier College, so I had my Vanier helmet on. So I was with the
Ooh.
Vanier guys. But right before the season, I switched up and went to Cégep du Montréal. So the guys hated me.
Yeah, that's how big of a rivalry is that?
It's big. Like after like Laval and Montreal, like university wise, I feel like that would be like the next biggest rivalry in Montreal, like football wise.
Now, you said the guys hated you. Is there like almost are you almost picking up on like maybe some of the things that fans are saying if you're playing Vanier that certain week?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I remember like that was at the time where Facebook was at its peak. Yo, let me tell you, the amount of shit talking that was going on before the game, it was amazing.
Break it
And
down for me.
so like, like I'd post a facial set. I'm probably sure if you go back on my Facebook, you could probably find some. But I'd post a status like, oh, big week playing against Vanier, hate them, da 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 da. And like some of the Vanier players had me on Facebook and they'd be like, oh, like you're a traitor, like why'd you switch over? Like you're, calling me word like bad words.
Yeah, okay.
So as the week goes by, like our coach, like he hates them even more. And there was this one speech he gave. He was like, Vanier are like the drunk people that are trying to get into the club, and we are the bouncers. We're not gonna let them into our club. It was the worst metaphor he could use, but honestly, like, yo, it got us so pumped. And when we went out there,
I'm gonna say I can just picture all you guys being like, yeah, yeah, and then just steamroll into that, being like, hey man, we're the bouncers. We're not letting these drunk. They're too drunk to be here.
yeah, and then like just walking out on the field, like we used to play at whenever we played home, we'd play at University of Montreal's field.
Yep.
Oh my god, best moment of my life walking out of that, like you walk out from underneath the stands and you go onto the field and like the crowd's behind you and just getting booed like whenever Vanier fans were there. I was just amazing. Miss
How'd
those
you
days.
perform? Did you turn up? Did that feed into something?
Yeah, always turned up against Vanier. Always turned up. I remember my last year of CJUP, like I wasn't sure if I was gonna play just because of school, and then I didn't play the first week against Jamie's team, which was CJUP Edouard Montpetit. And then the week after, we were playing Vanier, and Vanier, they were pretty excited because I wasn't playing. So I was like, man, like I need to get my school stuff straight. And when I got my school stuff straight, I was eligible to play against Vanier, and probably had one of the best games of like my careers, like in CJ. Got a pick almost for six.
How? What?
Listen, it was one of those drives, like like when they drive the whole field and like you're just gassed, but you can't show coach, and so your pass rushes are so sloppy. So I ended up just dropping, which I wasn't supposed to do, and like the quarterback just like threw it into my hands, and out of the blue, like I got gassed to like run. So I ran it back to like their 5 yard line. I was so pissed. I was like, I almost scored a touchdown.
Yeah, man. Like, how are you letting anybody stop you at that point? Who stopped you?
Probably quarter. I think it was Bryce, if anything.
Really?
I
Okay. You
think
know
it
what?
was Bryce. I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to check my highlight, but I'm sure it
Yeah.
was Bryce.
If it's Bryce, you know what? That kind of makes sense. I'll allow that.
But yeah, and like, you just hearing a crowd booing you because like it's Vanya and you're in. I was just like, let's go.
That's interesting. Before we get into anything else, I'm curious now because like you obviously rejoined the University of Ottawa with guys like Bryce and Spooner.
Yeah.
What was their reaction kind of like when you finally became teammates after you made that like decision?
I think prior to joining like U of O, Bryce and I we worked out at the same gym in Montreal. And so like when we both found out like, we're gonna play together, it's like, oh, like, what's up, future teammate? So we kind of like had that little chemistry going, like before moving to Ottawa. And then when we got to Ottawa, it's pretty cool. And then Kadeem too. Like I played against Kadeem and the Twins as well. So that was pretty fun. And then we got to meet up in Ottawa, and that was pretty chill too.
Now, with in regards to just Jep and like making that decision, was U Sports or well, like CIS too at the time, like on your radar? Like, were you thinking maybe right out of high school, try and make or go to a university program, or was it always like Jep?
And in Quebec, you have to go to CJEP.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of unfair. I feel just because for example, I got to university, I was 21, I think,
Mhm.
whereas like most of the other guys, they're like 18. So it's
Some are
like,
17.
yeah, so
Very
like
rare.
I don't. Well, did I meet Detler my first? Yeah, I think Detler came in the same year I did, and like Detler wasn't big at the time. I was like, "There's no way like Detler is making the team." But hey, my boy put on some weight. But yeah, we had to go to CJEP, so I guess that kind of like physically prepared us for university.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
I completely forgot. It's mandatory to do what, 1 year or two?
two. Well, yeah, two. Unless you go to unless you do what is it, grade 12 or so? I forgot the rules. But you'd have to like go to an Ontario school to do grade 12 and then be able to go to university right after.
Mhm. I will say it's interesting because I mean, for me anyway, going to university right out of high school is a big task. I mean, I was like, I didn't get into like Ryerson, the institution I was trying to get in at the time, right out of high school. So I spent a year out of college and did a year program. And it's always like, I've looked back on it, I'm like, it definitely prepared me a little bit more for like the university and that kind of style of learning.
Hmm.
I'm always kind of like, oh, like what would have happened if I had just gone to university right away? Like, would I still have the same kind of sense? But I think that 1 year, it really does something. So the fact that you guys get a couple like mandatory with like say Jep and stuff like that, I feel like it's somewhat of an advantage too.
It is like even like just like in a classroom, we I guess I was used to like bigger classrooms and like the course load didn't really overwhelm me too much just because I was already used to it like from college, right?
Hmm.
So that kind of like helped me out a little bit too.
Now you pick your courses in say Jep and everything like that, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like fairly similar. You can kind of prioritize and like, okay, I practice at this morning, so I won't pick a class for this morning, and so on.
correct, correct.
Now, how are you managing all of that workload though? Once you did get into the rhythm of just playing, college football and school and everything like that.
Like in university or college, like CJIP,
Sejep.
we had like mandatory lecture hall.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so
throughout, no matter what, because a lot of teams have that sometimes just for like the rookie class or something
no,
like
no,
that.
no, all throughout. Unless like you had like 100% average, which a few guys did. But all throughout, yeah, we'd have lecture hall, and it was actually an alumni. You know Steve Alexandre.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was the one holding lecture hall, so he made sure you didn't miss lecture hall. That's when I got introduced to Steve Alexandre too. Oh my god, that guy's no joke. I tell you, no joke.
Yeah, he is. I've only really met him at the touchdown dinner because he's been like hosting it over the past couple of years. But
Yeah,
great dude, and I mean, obviously, he had quite the career with the GGs, winning a Vanier Cup.
I know.
Now, is that kind of who persuaded you to go to U Ottawa, plus the addition of JV?
No, to be quite honest, U Ottawa was not even in my top three schools.
Ooh, not even top three.
No. um, my first choice was UBC.
Okay, West Coast. That's a good school. Nice campus.
They screwed up because they waited until after I signed my intention of joining University of Ottawa to like reach out to me.
Really? So you already reached out to them at that point too, and they just
Yeah, like we were going back and forth, and then for some reason at one point, like I'm thinking it was like the recruiting blackout, like they're not allowed to talk to players.
yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really know, so I was just like, oh well, I guess they're not interested, like And then I I don't want to say like got pressured, but like I was like, okay, well I got to make my decision soon. So it was here, and then Western was my second choice,
Okay.
but I didn't have the grades for Western, so I was like, I'm not gonna do that. And then Carlton was my third choice.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So how do you go from UBC number one, Western two, Carleton three, then U
you,
Ottawa?
uh, I always wanted to like go further away, like just
Okay.
to have like that experience of like being away from your family. And I feel like UBC would have been perfect for me. And then Western, it was perfect too because it was pretty far, and like they have a great football program, right?
Yeah, obviously they've just been so dumb.
And I'm a sucker for the purple. Like I love purple.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Man,
Like
Osas in a purple Western Mustangs jersey. I don't know if I could see it.
could have been, could have been. And then Carlton, it was when they just rebooted their program, right? So they had so much to offer, but it um just seemed like a fairy tale, like like it was too good to be true, right?
Okay.
Like yeah, like yeah, they got all these new jerseys, new facilities, but deep down I was like, how you guys gonna help me, like school wise, like because I wasn't the smartest kid, right?
Hmm.
And that's when Coach B like kind of took the time to actually talk to my parents, which really meant a lot to me. And yeah, Coach B promised my parents like, yo, he's gonna graduate university if he comes to U of O. And so my dad was like, yo, like who is this guy? Like I love this guy.
That's one thing I will say about Coach B is he really puts a high praise on the academic aspect.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. Not even gonna lie about that.
Yeah, well, he's got what, like a PhD, like dudes, he like couple master's degree, like he's got a few degrees. I know that for
Yeah, smart guy.
yeah.
So during my first year, him and my dad like they would talk a lot, like just making sure like I'm doing good. I remember once I missed study hall or lecture hall, and yo, my dad called me. He was like, "Where are you?" I was like, "At home." He's like, "Aren't you supposed to be like in study hall?" I was like, "Yeah, but I just went to go grab some food." He's like, "You better get your ass to study hall right now because I just finished talking to Coach V and he's talking about kicking your ass off the team." I was just like, "What?" The second I hang up, Coach B calls me. He's like, "Where are you?" I was like, "Oh my god."
Man, that's never when you see like the Jamie Barisi come up on the phone.
Yeah,
It's never
never
like
a good thing.
I didn't even play for him, and the few times he called me, like your heart just drops, and you're like, oh no.
Yeah, never a good thing.
So
So
what did he say when you picked up the phone?
he's like, "Osas, where are you?" I was like, "I'm at home. I'm just getting some food." He's like, "You better get your ass here. I just talked with your dad, and I will kick you off this team. I don't care how good you are of a football player. If you don't get your ass here right now, you're done." And I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like, he's like, "You better hurry up." And like, I couldn't even say anything. He just hung up. I was like, "Oh my god."
Did you take the food with you to study hall?
No, I just lost my appetite. I was like, "Man, like."
That's always my favorite when like people run into places late and they're like, "Oh, traffic was crazy," and they got like a Starbucks cup and like
Yeah,
shawarma in the other hand, and it's like, "Oh yeah, traffic was late, but the
you had time
Starbucks
to stop
line."
for food, right? Let me get my Trenta passion tea lemonade.
That's your go-to. That's your Starbucks order.
Yes, sir.
A Trenti passion
Trenta
fruit lemonade.
Trenta size passion tea lemonade, extra squirt of lemonade, light on the ice.
How is that? Is that any good?
That's amazing.
Take a guess at how close the closest Starbucks to me now is.
Feel like because I don't know Newfoundland like that, but I feel like everything's far, so it's like an hour.
Hey, yeah, you're right on an
No
hour.
way.
Yeah.
Yo, I got like 3 around me.
Yeah, you could probably do one real quick. If I'm in my hometown, it's 2 hours.
2 hours?
Yeah. So this is like the first time I've lived in this area of Newfoundland. So I'm a
Yeah.
little bit closer to like the big city. So it's only an hour. But yeah, no, Starbucks is definitely, it's not, man, it's crazy because I got into the habit of like drinking like coffee and Starbucks and everything. Because for one, Ottawa winters suck and they're freezing and you have to walk everywhere basically when you're a student.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just kind of had it set up in the sense where like, okay, I leave my house and by the at the like the second intersection, I put in my mobile order and then I keep walking. By the
Right.
time I get to the Starbucks that I had like the one of 4 Starbuckses that I'm gonna pass on my walk, hop in, it's there on the table, grab it, and then continue on to like the train in the later years of like the LRT or like hop
Yeah,
on OC Transpo or continue walking basically.
man.
And yeah, now I'm just like, okay, well, what am I gonna do now? Now I like coffee and I like having it a part of my routine. I ain't driving an hour. I'm not a big fan of Tim Hortons coffee.
Listen, you and me both.
It's yeah, I don't know, man. Like something happened to it a few years ago.
What happened?
Well, no, I'm just saying like that's when I
Uh,
kind of said it like it. I feel like it went downhill. I've like seen a few articles though that apparently like Tim Hortons' coffee bean was bought by McDonald's. So that's why McDonald's, like the McCafe is so good now. Like essentially they lost the contract to the bean.
yeah.
I don't know if I can like confirm or deny that, obviously. Like if anybody from Tim Hortons is listening, Tim Hortons Corporation, could you let us know?
Tim Hortons, we need answers right now. Thank you.
But yeah, so apparently that's kind of like what happened. And you know, like McDonald's coffee just randomly got a whole bunch better and Tim Hortons didn't. So apparently the story behind that is that McDonald's coffee, like the contract was up for the bean or whatnot, and they purchased the bean contract, and now they have like Tim Hortons coffee basically, but it's McDonald's. So
See, I'm not a big coffee drinker.
yeah, I can actually tell that by your Starbucks choice.
Why is that?
Because it's a lemonade, not a coffee.
Listen, I'm a hot chocolate kind of guy. If I have to pick a hot drink, it's a hot chocolate with whipped cream on it.
Whipped
And Tim,
cream.
yeah,
Okay.
I- but Tim Hortons doesn't offer that, so it's like I have no choice but to go to Starbucks.
There's so essentially what I'll do in the morning is essentially have a cup of coffee. Like I'll drink my coffee black, so I just put it in. I have like the Nespresso, so it's just like the pod. And then depending on like the day, for the most part, like if I want like a little bit more, I'll just put in like a shot of espresso into my black coffee. So then it's just like a little bit more of a drink. And that's typically like what I drink every weekday, like every morning. When I go to
Jesus.
when I go to Starbucks and things like that, I more move into like the creative things because I'm like, okay, I don't, if I'm going to spend like some money on a coffee, I almost kind of want it to be something that I can't really do at home. So like I'll go with like a latte and then like caramel, but like half sweet. So like half the amount of caramel.
So fancy.
Man, it's not like, not that fancy. It's a latte. I mean, it's like,
Hey,
steamed milk.
latte sounds fancy to me.
It's, yeah, I guess like I'm curious because I'm like, what is fancy coffee though,
Yeah,
Like,
Starbucks.
yeah. But even then, like, there's like, I've been fortunate enough to like travel and
Yeah.
be in Italy, and like the coffee there is 90 times better than any like Starbucks coffee here, and it's like half the price.
And
So it's like,
I miss traveling
yeah, you were traveling a nice bit.
a little bit. I went to Banff.
Yeah. But well, no, like even like just over the past like couple years, like you've gotten to
Yeah, I see you
where,
got the Flex Runner hoodie on. Shout outs to Josh. We
yeah, I
went to
do.
Miami together.
Oh yeah, okay. How was that trip?
I don't know what I can say and cannot say.
Yeah, I
I will
figured as
just say
much.
this. It was a good time. We Miami living. That's all I could say. If Josh, you're listening to this, the twins, you're listening to this, Miami living. That's all I gotta say.
Oh my. Oh no. somebody sent in the group chat the other day, well, like New Year's, and it was just like basically kind of like an affirmation thing, like, "Hey,
Hmm.
New Year's 2022, all of us Miami," and I'm just like, "Oh no."
2022, not even 2021.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I guess I I mean, who knows when like you're gonna be able to kind of freely travel anymore?
I told
But
myself that regardless of what happens this year, I'm flying somewhere.
okay.
Like, I refuse to, like, doing the whole year last year not traveling, like, outside of the country was so tough.
Mhm.
So, like, and I see a bunch of people traveling, like, going to Mexico and stuff. That's fine. I just wanna go, like, experience, like, different cultures and all that, so I'm looking at Hawaii maybe,
Okay.
but
Hawaii's got some like good guidelines too, I'm pretty sure. Like in I
yeah,
think you have to potentially quarantine upon arrival, maybe? I don't know.
then guess not. I'm not going to Hawaii.
Yeah, traveling is definitely, tough nowadays, and it's not the same. It's weird because I had to fly to back to Ottawa, obviously, like in September.
Yeah,
And for the most part, like I mean, obviously that's like in Canadian, like or sorry, Canada to Canada flight, like it's not international.
mhm.
But it was like very jam packed. Like it was kind of concerning, like how like jam packed everybody was, and the fact
Yeah.
that like there really wasn't an empty seat in the plane at the time, and that was September.
Oh,
I
wow.
want to say, yeah. So it's one of those things where it's just I don't know. For me, I think I'm going to be traveling again when basically it's just kind of like I can do it in a good headspace, basically, where there's
Yeah.
like not a whole lot on the go. Because
I
yeah,
mean,
I
like,
mean,
you guys on the East Coast, like, you guys are very, like, strict, like, if people travel into the province.
well, I had to do a 2-week quarantine.
How
Which
was that? Like, I saw, like, a little bit of your videos, but, like,
yeah,
how
I
was
mean,
it?
it's tough. Like for myself, I was really worked up about it. Like I was genuinely kind of like freaking out. Like, how am I going to handle this?
Mhm.
Just because I'm somebody who, for one, just loves like engaging with people, and I can't typically go days without having some form of like human interaction. Basically, like I love talking with people. So, and even like nowadays, like that's a lot harder than what it used to be. And I'm not getting that big fixation of like going to a football practice, interacting with like 100 people, then being on campus and like being in classes of like 30 and 60. So
Mhm.
it was a massive adjustment for me going down to like all that like interaction to like seeing, the people at the grocery store, if I had to pick up groceries that day, or like the 10 people who are in like the gym for the workout class or anything like that. Right. So,
Yeah.
when I got into isolation, it was kind of like, okay, like let's do this, let's game plan kind of thing, right? Because I hate just sitting there and thinking, basically, which is pretty much
Yeah.
all it was. And I had like a couple online classes, and you try and stay engaged with it all, but yeah, for the most part, it was just a lot of sitting. I will say, what I've taken away from it was that it wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. But there is times where you're just sitting there and you're like, "Man, like, what's going on? Like, what is life?" kinda thing, and, like, you get
Mhm.
into your own head. So it's something that I gotta get better at, like, basically kind of recognizing different things and putting yourself into just different perspectives more or less, instead of just sitting there and sulking in a way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's challenging, and then also too, there's just this whole other thing where, okay, I'm going to an island that has, like, very limited cases, like 3 cases, 4 cases, whatever it is, like, I mean, at the highest point over Christmas, I think we got to, like, 30 maybe for the whole island, but so before that in November, cases were kinda climbing, and then you see, like, the reaction from the general public,
Mhm.
whether on, like, social media, and you're just sitting there and you're pretty much feeling like a criminal because like you're locked in this box in a way, and
Yeah.
like you're just kind of sitting there like, oh my gosh, like please don't let me have like COVID, and like because then that's just another case, and like you're like it's going to be another reaction, and the guilt kind of associated with that. So to deal with all that, and then like you almost don't get to have anybody to talk to and kind of work through and be like, Rob, like calm down, you're being foolish, more or less.
Hmm.
So then you just sit there with those thoughts for like 14 days. That's me anyway.
How, like, were you like in a room, or like what is it like? Like,
So what I did, you can do essentially different things, but so people are allowed to quarantine with like their family within their house.
hmm,
And essentially the premise there is they stay in a room by themselves, like away from the family. That is kind of implemented for like rotational workers, which Newfoundland obviously has a lot of because we have a lot of people going to Alberta and working in that industry.
yeah,
So with that, the family is allowed to like go out and grocery shop and go to school and go to work until or unless that individual develops like symptoms. So there's that aspect of it. So you can like stay in the house with your family more or less, like kind of separated. They recommend like using like a different washroom and things like that.
yeah.
But for myself, just with the precautions that I decided to take, I more or less just spend actually I think yeah over. I basically booked a Airbnb more or less for like 2 weeks.
Hmm.
So I was living in a house in my hometown for that 2 week period,
Okay.
and so and I had my parents drop off groceries.
I was gonna ask, like, how'd you get food? Like, how'd you survive?
Yeah, so like yeah. No, I went no food, no drinks for
You're
2 weeks.
crazy, man. I knew you were crazy.
No, so my parents would drop off groceries like at the like on the porch basically, and then
Hmm.
they'd leave and I come out and I grab it and then you go on and then obviously I didn't have any symptoms and I didn't have COVID and you go out and so it's tough, but I mean I definitely understand the premise of it all. I
Hmm.
mean, we're such a older population here in a small island. I mean, if it gets bad, it can be real bad real quick, right? So
Yeah.
you it's just, it's the times that we're in, right? So at the end of the day, it's like that individual sacrifice is bigger and better for the general public and the general goal, right? So when
Hmm.
you work together and do things like that, I mean, it's just going to progress this and we're going to get out of it quicker than expected, more or less. So that's kind of how I thought about it.
If anything, I feel like Ontario and Quebec should have like modeled like their lockdown rules like to like how you guys do it,
Hmm.
like prevent traveling for like, I don't know, 28 days, like keep everybody at home. Because now, like, with everything going on here, it's like for me, example, I live on Gatineau, but I work in Ottawa. So like I have to be home before 8 o'clock or else you get a fat ticket.
Yeah, true.
So it's like I like, like kind of stupid. Like I could still cross the bridge. But then when you get to Ottawa, it's like if you're not going to work or anything, like you're not supposed to be out. But yet, like I work at a bank and it's constantly busy.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because I completely forgot about that. So obviously, like Gatineau and Ottawa are super close to each other. It's like a 5 minute drive,
Yeah.
but that's Quebec and Ontario for you. So yeah, like what happens if you end up like having to stay at work late and then
Well, like I have a letter from work like that permits me to travel like here and there,
Mhm.
but I rarely stay. Like the latest I stay is 6.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's annoying. Like just lock everything down and just let's, go 28 days or however days you want to do it like without, having anything open and see like the numbers drop.
Mhm.
But again, I'm not no prime minister or mayor or whatever.
Hey, maybe someday Mayor Osas, I can get behind that.
Hey man, I'll turn this place to a party.
That's probably exactly what we don't need right now.
No, honestly, if I was prime minister, like I kid you not, like everything would be locked, like shut down,
Okay.
like full 28. Like I'd be like, okay, look, residents of Canada, you guys have this week to do your groceries for 14 days, let's say. Like if you need any medical like things, you could go to the pharmacy, but like your doctor needs to prescribe it or whatsoever. Other than that, yeah, it's to staying home.
Okay.
Boom.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different things though too that like people don't even think of, and even so, like a running joke a lot of times is people are saying how like liquor stores are still open and like how that's like an essential service, but I mean that's like a big thing with like addiction, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't shut those things down, right? Like I mean that there in a factor is a whole other thing that a lot of people haven't realized, right? As to why those places are open like that.
Telling you, LCBOs are busier than banks right now, and it's just mind-boggling, like to see how many people are really like addicted to alcohol.
Hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, there's also a fine line too, though, and like addiction, and then probably just picking up like your
Yeah,
bottle to
yeah,
get out of the house, right? Like,
yeah. But yeah,
no, this is definitely I'll say, an eye-opening time where you can really understand more or less how people are in certain situations and what people are willing to do for their other person, you know?
that is true. Yeah,
Because yeah, you've you've seen a lot of things over the last year where it's just like, okay, yeah, where your mindset is and where your head space is, I thought was going to be completely different than this,
yeah.
right? But it's yeah, I mean, it's the future and the present right now. So I mean, we gotta take it one day at a time, I guess.
Honestly, that's what I tell like my coworkers. Even like on Saturday, I was working and we are just talking and we are like, "Yo, like, do you guys remember like the days we didn't have to wear masks? Like, those were the good days, right?"
Well, it's funny because Newfoundland actually didn't enforce like a mask mandate till August of 2020. So
Oh wow,
yeah,
wow,
that was a long period of time, right? But then even
yeah.
certain conversations, because at that point what was interesting was March, April, May, June, like we had a lot of cases. Then our cases are down to pretty much like zero or one or two,
Hmm.
and they enforce this mask mandate. So a lot of people were saying things like, oh, like, doesn't make any sense, we got no cases now and now we're being forced to
Wear
wear them,
masks.
right?
Yeah.
But the thing is like, oh no, like you wear the mask so you can kind of get back to some form of like more normalcy, right? So,
Hmm.
and depending on the location, that differs, right? So if it's wearing a mask, then maybe it's only a 1 week quarantine for travelers into the island, right? If that's the case with a
Oh,
mask mandate. Now, mind you, that's like it's still a 2 week mandatory quarantine for like
quarantine.
travels, but it's just one of those things where it's like, no, you need to wear the mask because I mean, for one, protect yourself, protect other people, kind of thing. But when you put in those protective measures, you can be able to, in terms of like the other restrictions,
Yeah.
oh, it's almost like a give and take in a way. Eventually it can get to that point if we like all kind of buy in.
Yeah.
So you're
But
basically going from, ideally it's like you wear the mask and then all of a sudden your cases go down and everything drops, and then I don't know, depending on the situation or something like that, say like you can now dance at a bar again, or things of that nature, right? Like
I'm not stepping foot into a bar ever.
what's one of the things, I this has been like a TikTok trend. What's one of the things that you can't believe that you did before COVID that you're probably never going to do again? Have you seen those TikToks?
Yeah. Um, one thing I, I honestly think, yeah, it's the clubbing days. Like I'm done
Yeah.
with those. Yeah,
Oh,
like
wow.
well, I mean, like, like I worked in the
Mm.
bars like during like my undergrad for the most part of it. Good money. To anyone from Ottawa listening, thank you for your money. No, but honestly, like, yeah, like I don't see myself going out anymore. Like even like closer like to like when COVID started, like
Mhm.
before that, like I was like, yeah, like I'm done with the clubs. Like,
Oh, wow. Not
yeah,
even the bouncer?
not even as a bouncer. I stopped working as a bouncer when the twins left because
Okay, yeah, it makes sense.
those were my guys, and like other than them, and like maybe Rashad, like I don't trust anybody else to have my back, you know.
Yeah.
So that was that. No more clubbing. What's yours?
I think for me, all you can eat buffets, like those things are just they don't look sanitary, man. Like when you think about the place.
Hey, that is true.
Like
That is true.
you think you got a restaurant of like 100 people and everybody's like going up, touching the same thing, serving the food. And I can guarantee you there's some nasty individual who probably put something on their plate and
Put
then
it back.
decided to put it back and they didn't get a brand new plate at the beginning like they should
Uh,
have. So yeah, I think that's the one for me.
yeah. If you could say, like, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Like, ever since COVID started, like, what's one thing that like you've learned about yourself?
Oh man. I think a big thing for myself, there's a couple because I don't want to make it off like it's all been good,
Yeah.
but I think for me, I just know now it's like, okay, hey, like when the going gets tough and like things are to shit and like you lose contracts and like you can't find jobs and you're applying to like 300 places, like you still have that fight in you and you work
Yeah.
your ass off to get out of it and get yourself into like different opportunities. And then a big thing too is not letting individuals dictate like your behavior and how like you respond into certain situations and realizing that having expectations on individuals to reciprocate emotions that you give is
Hmm.
just not tangible and you're always going to be let down for the most part because like myself I'm a very like high and like super positive and like I will be like a hype man and I'll give you that reaction like if you're like yo Rob, like I just hit like my 1,000 subscriber goal on YouTube, I'm hyping you up, like I'm so amped for you, I'm like yeah,
Yeah.
let's go Osas, like and then I just gave you all that and let's say like 2 months later the same thing happens to me and I tell you and you're just like oh congrats man, like for a lot of my life I'm like always like over analyzing that and I'm like oh like Osas doesn't really like me like
Yeah. I know what you
and
mean.
it brings you down so there's like been like a little bit of that basically.
Yeah. That, wow. That's true.
Are you thinking of having a podcast or something like that? Like, are you just practicing right now, throwing some?
No, like honestly, I thought about it for the longest time, but like, nah, I'll let that's I'll let you do that. I don't mind being like a special guest from here and there, but nah,
What about
podcast.
you? What has Osas learned about himself?
I would say like for the longest time, like it goes back to like when Loic passed away, like
Hmm.
may his soul rest in peace. But like it just like kind of changed like my perspective on life. Like, you know, the longest time, like a lot of people like in my surroundings, they're like, you know, don't spend your money on this, don't buy that, like you need to save up, you need to think about your future. And like for the longest time I was thinking like that, like, yeah, you know, like I can't spend my money because like I have to save up for my future. But I think when COVID happened, like I was like, man, like, you know, tomorrow's never promised. Like I've seen a lot of posts like on social media, like, you know, a lot of people losing family members due to COVID, even like younger people like our age.
Hmm.
And so it's just like, man, like just go out and live. Like be fearless, you know? Like look at me snowboarding. Like who would have thought like I'm out here snowboarding or like even my trip to Banff, like that was I'm telling you, I booked that trip like within a week before traveling. And just being able to like go out there and just experience new things, like that's how I'm living my life now. Like just go out there and just live your life. Like for like I used to think about what others thought about me like for the longest time, hence why like my YouTube videos like were up and down.
Hmm.
And now it's just like, yo, if you don't like it, you don't like it. Like I don't care. Like, you know, it is what it is. Like, but I'm just gonna do it for myself and like just live life. That's what I always tell myself. Just live life.
Well, when you do things for yourself, at the end of the day, nothing's really going to stop you,
Exactly.
right? Like because and if you do stop, it's almost healthy in a way because that's you telling yourself to stop. That's not anybody else, and then you're
Yeah,
satisfied to where you took that project.
correct. So
Uh,
it's just, yeah, I'd say like that. Like, like I did like the food review series like for a bit.
mhm.
Like legit, I was sitting at home and I was like, yo, like I haven't posted a YouTube video. Like, what can I do? I was like, let me just go review like some local businesses, like and just eat in front of the camera just because like, who doesn't like to eat? And like what's nice is like I had a few friends like that reached out to me like when I did the Stay Gold pizza review. Like I had a few friends reach out to me. They're like, "Yo, like after seeing your video, like I went to go try their pizza and like, yo, it's delicious." I had a friend from Montreal drive down to go try their pizza.
Oh, wow.
So I was just like, man, like, it's just the little wins, like that matter. So
Yeah,
that's
well,
that.
when you're doing it for yourself and those things happen, it amplifies that emotion so much because now instead of doing something that you absolutely hate and somebody's like, "Hey, I love this," and you're like a little bit happy for them because you're like, "Oh, thanks," but inside you're dead because it's just like this killed me to put out
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
didn't enjoy any of it, but I'm glad you like it. But now when it's something that like you truly love, that's just bliss in my opinion, honestly, because I've had a lot of those moments and every single
yeah.
one is special. And it's funny because, and I mentioned this on a photo series that I guest in. I don't even think it's out yet, but basically when you look at everything in the big picture and it's like, you kind of fight for the likes and the comments because of the algorithm. Dude, I can't tell you essentially where my photos have ended up, like what articles, like what headlines, what massive like major corporations and things of that,
Hmm.
unless I like go back and reflect on it, which is essentially what that thing forced me to do was reflect on my old photos and moments. What I do remember is the individual who reaches out and is like, "Hey, I watched the video of you and your grandfather and
Yeah,
it really inspired me to go reach out to one of my older relatives. She's the only one I had left. We had a great conversation kind of thing, right?" So like that happened like a year ago and I can remember freshly like that conversation and that text, right? But essentially in compare like the main thing that kind of brought this to my attention was when I had one of my photos go on CBS, like this morning show, like down in the States, it was a
damn.
huge, and like it's got like, it was really cool in the moment, but
Yeah,
I only remembered that because I was asked to go look through my photos and find some photos with a good story. And then like when I seen that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a priceless story, like photo. It's got a good story to it. And it also kind of ended up on like a massive talk show in the
yeah,
States, so I'm like, yeah, like why not kind of thing, bring it up, right? But that haven't thought about that in like 3 years. Whereas, these other things, I'm like, yeah, like it's right here. Like I remember.
yeah. Like I still remember I think it was last year when I first started like vlogging again, and I posted this video, and like honestly, like I just posted it because like I just felt it was right.
Hmm.
And I got a DM from someone, like I won't say who it was, but I got a DM from someone, and like this guy just sent me like a whole paragraph just saying like, yo, like I'm really excited for you. Like, yo, it takes a lot of balls to do what you're doing, and like you got my support 110%. And like I barely know that person, but like just hearing that, like it's just like, man, let me just, continue doing my thing.
Hmm.
So I try to keep everything like authentic whenever like, I post videos or do whatever I'm doing.
You mentioned Loic as being a big reason too why you've come to that realization.
Yeah.
Can you chat a little bit more about that?
Yeah. Like it's pretty self-explanatory. Like you go like spending like you go from having someone walk into your apartment and just pass out in your bed or take a power nap like there and then poof, gone. Like it just puts life into like perspective. Like I've never had someone like close to me like pass away, so like that was like my first time ever like dealing with that. So yeah, it just like it sounds corny, but like, you know how like we always say tomorrow isn't promised.
Mm-hmm.
I live my life like that pretty much. It's like, like what if tomorrow like it's my day, like, like shit, I went snowboarding today at least, like, I had fun, I ate shit, like I lived, like I don't want to be like, we hear that a lot. I don't want to be that guy that like when he's 60 is like, shit, I should have done that, I should have done this. So it's just like, live, man, like just live. And like I say my prayers every day, and like I always like, you know say like, yo, thank you, Loic, like, you always looking over us, like, so like it's just like, even though he's not here, like I know he's here,
Mm-hmm.
so it's just like, because I know like if he was here right now, like I would have been snowboarding with him, and I know like it would have been fucking epic.
I
I just,
would pay to see that.
I just know it would have been epic, like, or like even like the twins moving back to Montreal. Like I feel like if Lloyd was here, like we would have probably all just gotten a house together,
Mm-hmm.
like, so it's just things like that. And like one thing I realized like about Loic too is like Loic was pretty much like our middle ground, like to me and Kadeem, to me and the twins, to me and Ricardo. Like Loic was like that, like, he was like that middle
That
person.
centerpiece that
Yeah,
brought everything
exactly,
together.
exactly. Like, so it's just like, man, like, like I miss him every day, but like,
Mhm.
yo, I'm living life just every day. Just live your life, man. That's, if I could get a tattoo, that would be my tattoo, but my mom would kill me. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Now, how have you been like dealing with those moments? Because for myself personally, like death is something that fears me so much with, in regards to loved ones, and then, even reflecting on yourself kind of selfishly, it's like I never want to die, but I mean it's inevitable. It's life.
Yeah,
And it's something that I've spent a lot of time, working on. And the whole grievement process, it's so different, and there's no one shoe fits all, because I mean it's different for every person in every situation. What were some things that really resonated with you through that time?
I wouldn't even be able to answer that, to be quite honest. I think like when my dad lost his mom,
Hmm.
like I was younger, and then he lost his brother. Yeah, so when he lost his brother, like my dad is very like military style almost, like never shows his emotion. And so like when he found out like he lost his brother, I was just like, man, like, I wish I was there for him. But he just, I don't know how he does it, man. Like he's just so like strong about it. And so like I try to be strong, like, like when Loic passed, like I was like, all right, like, yo, passed, but like he's still here. Like I believe in like, afterlife and all that. Like I know he's up there. So like he's not gone. Like I always tell myself like he's not gone. There's still some days I'm like, this guy's about to pop up and be like, psych. So I'm just like, I don't know. Like I just keep him, like I keep him in my mind like every day. And like even if it's just like for a split second, like usually like it's on my way to work, like I said, like I'm saying my prayers, like that's when like I think about him. I'm just like, all right, yo, like new day, let's get this money, let's go be good, like to other people, like, like I know you on my shoulder, and that's just how I go about it. Like, yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, it's a tough question, because honestly I don't even know how to answer it myself, right? So
Yeah,
it's one of those where, yeah, it's more or less the process of life, and you just kind of learn more and more about it as you go on. And I
yeah.
100% agree. Loic is definitely watching down. Like even the Panda game when we won and broke that streak.
Hey, man.
The fact that Sawyer took a knee and we ended that game on the 49-yard line,
Yeah,
like man, he's 100% watching over at that moment.
yeah. Like this one's for you guys.
Pardon me, what was
Man,
that?
he's like, this was for you guys.
Yeah.
But like, even like till this day, like I have one of his hats in my car that he forgot like a long time ago because this guy likes to leave his shit everywhere. And like the other day I was cleaning my car and like I was like, man, like this hat's not going anywhere. Like it's always gonna be in my car, like regardless. And like today, like as I was putting my snowboard in my trunk, like it fell out, and I was just like, man, like go back up there. But yeah, it's just Loic, man.
He was a great man.
Yeah, and I only got to meet him like when he first started at U Ottawa. Like I didn't like I knew of him like in Montreal, but I
Mhm.
never like really talked to him until he moved to Ottawa.
Dude, he had that power of just like making you feel like you've known him his whole
Yeah.
life right away. Because even for myself, like I got to meet him a little bit during that train. You know when I took that photo of you, him, and Kadeem at that spring camp?
I still have that picture.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
kind of met him there, and then obviously I went home that summer, and then I came back, and then training camp, and that season was basically the time that I got to meet him and get to know him. But yeah,
Side story, that picture when you took it, I knew you were looking at it. I was like, yo guys,
oh,
look.
I knew you knew I was looking.
I was like, yo guys, look over there. Like look like we're talking serious. And then I was like, I hope you got the picture.
You had your camera on you that day too.
Yeah, I think so.
So
Yeah.
what were you doing with the camera there? Were you because you weren't even eligible to come back?
No,
You were
I
the
was
alumni
I,
guy coming.
yeah, I was done, I think. I think that's when I first got my camera and I started shooting. Like,
Really?
yeah, and then kept going.
So now, like, let's kind of backtrack and go back into football.
Yeah.
So you get to U Ottawa, you're a rookie again. What's the thought process there? Because now you're coming from Sage Up, so you're
Hmm.
basically starting and playing right away.
Doing rookie things, man. I hated it. Having to carry people's equipment, like I was like, yo, I'm older than half of you freaking vets, and like you guys are treating me like a little bitch. Like, relax, okay? But like they didn't do me too bad, like honestly. But yeah, being a rookie, like it was cool. Like guys did treat me with respect. They made me feel like one of their own. Like Rashid made sure I was always good. So forever thankful for him. He's like my big younger brother.
Rashid,
Yeah, like I'm older than him, but like
you're
he's
older than Rashid.
yeah. I think by like a few months or so.
Oh, okay, a few months. I thought you were talking like years. I was like,
No, no,
what?
no, 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 no. But like, he's school smart, so he's like my big brother when it comes to school.
Was that kind of who helped you bridge that gap academically? Because you mentioned you were
Yeah,
going to struggle.
yeah, 100%. Like Rashid always made sure like I was on my shit like with school,
Mhm.
and he's like, if you ever need anything, you could always call me.
How many times did you call him?
Rashid,
Yeah.
I called him once for one of my final exams. I was like, yo,
Was it,
listen,
how do I defer? How do I defer? Or what
listen,
was it?
yeah, defer or like, yo, listen, I need you to go over my text, like, and then this guy would send it back like, yo, it's horrible. It's like, I'm sending it. It's like, how much time do you have left? I was like, listen, I have 5 minutes left. It's horrible. Just send it.
Oh my.
But yeah, good guys, honestly. I do not regret coming to Ottawa, if anything. Like, probably the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still here.
Yeah. True.
Yeah. But yeah.
No, man, it's a great spot. I love Ottawa. I got a lot of love for that city, man. It's something crazy. Like, I mean, obviously, you knew Ottawa more so than what I did when I moved there. I'm assuming because like when I moved there, it was the first time I had ever been there.
When did we meet? I think we met at my last year, right?
Yeah, it was like that period more or less in between. Because you were Trey's like quote unquote dad.
Yeah.
The first time I actually met you was in first year, and you were taking Trey for Sweet Jesus ice cream, and I tagged along. And now that I think about it, that's so weird that just me, you, and Trey went
Went
down
for
into
ice
the
cream.
market, and just had ice cream, and it was like the winter too, bro. Like it was
Yeah.
cold.
I think because I went before and like I told Trey I would pay his ice cream if he did
Oh,
something.
listen, the fact that Trey's in this story about going and getting something to eat, it's there's this underlining fine print that it's basically somebody else paid for it. I love him. I love the guy, but
Listen,
he
listen.
does not he does not pay for any kind of food.
He
My
should
bir-
write a book. He should write
my,
a book, Art
my
of Not Paying.
birthday breakfast was at FNS, and
Oh my God.
FNS breakfast is like $6. It was like me
Yeah.
and like our like group, right? And I was like, yeah, we'll go to breakfast in the morning at FNS, and he was like, uh, I don't know if I can like afford it, like, or I don't know if I can pay. Like, I just went to FNS yesterday, and like, I'm like, dude, it's $6, and then like he went
Yeah.
and sat there and didn't get anything, dude.
What?
Listen, this guy, it's amazing though. It's such a like it's an incredible talent. I've never seen anything like it. My parting dinner, so it was myself, Ty, Jimmy, and Trey, the four of us, right?
Yeah.
Our table probably spent upwards to like all of us, like with the drinks and the food and like the
Hmm.
shots that we were having to like kind of celebrate the my like new job and like going back home to Newfoundland, right? And like
Yeah.
kind of like a parting way. Our tables bill like split in between us with like different things. Now, mind you, too, like my amount isn't necessarily going to be Ty's amount, right?
Yeah.
Like we
Yeah.
split it equally.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm trying to get you to guess. Basically, there was four of us. Our bill was like the table's bill was probably around 800 to 1,000. Guess how much of that was Trey?
800 to 1,000. And okay, so Trey
800 to
probably
1,000. There was like four of us.
tell me trade in order for like $200 to $300 worth of food and shots.
This man walked away with a $30 bill.
How? Wait, I need to understand why, how, and
Dude, he ordered his food, and then I mean, for the most part, like I bought a bottle of wine, and like Jimmy bought a few rounds, and Ty bought a bottle of wine. So
let me guess. When it was Trey's turn to buy, he's like, "Yeah, I think we should leave."
no, it wasn't. I don't think it was like we've never really like done that, right? Like where it's like your turn or your turn kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's just more or less like I'm just like, yeah, like let's get a bottle of wine for the table kind of thing. Like let's spruce things up more or less. Like let's go.
Trey, if you're listening to this, I know I still owe you that video game.
Oh, I thought you were gonna be like, I know you still know I owe you like $30.
No, no, no. Like I told him I was gonna get him mad and like if he had like certain amount of sex, which
Oh yeah. Dude, do you know how much he talked about that? He was like, I gotta get a sack this weekend because if not, I'm not on pace no more. And Osas said he was gonna give me Madden.
you know what? It's getting voided after what I just found out today with the Bills. You're not getting mad no more.
Oh man, dude, but yeah, he is so good with that.
Yeah,
He really is. I admire it. I wish I could be like that.
The Art of Finessing by Tremaine Stevens.
I did, and the thing is too is it's such a finesse because I would probably buy that book.
Same. I'll be like, hey, I need to learn about this. Chapter 1, the only one. Man, but I love him, man. That's my guy.
He's such a good dude. But yeah, like yeah, that sweet Jesus ice cream date, that was interesting.
That's funny, man. Like,
Yeah, we actually like we did have some good dialect like between the three of us.
yeah, yeah, we did.
I can't recite it to you because my memory is definitely not that good.
I just remember us getting ice cream and like you like, us just introducing each other, like,
Mhm.
and that was that, and then yeah,
I
that's how I guess
believe
that's how we started.
Yeah, I believe too that was also the original dialect of it was kind of starting to get in the air of like, yeah, like I think I'm gonna try and do like some video and like photo stuff for like the football team and whatnot. Because that
Yeah,
was in that time frame to where I was talking to Trey and Ty, like, hey, who's running your social media accounts right now? Like, let's kind of get on board and let's do some things here.
yo, you really did that, man. I gotta give you that. You did
I
that.
appreciate it. Yeah, it was a
How
lot of
hard was
fun.
it?
I mean, it was. I don't want to sell it short, but yeah, it was hard. It was a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears for sure.
Like, you were you the one taking care of their Twitter too and all that?
Yeah, yeah. So like more or less, like I was just managing like all of our platforms and stuff. For the most part, I didn't do any like live game tweets,
Yeah.
but yeah, like more or less, like all the photo and video stuff. A lot of it was on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Came from yours truly.
Shit, the one and only.
No, it was fun. I mean, the biggest thing, the reason why I decided to approach football was obviously because like I lived on that floor with Ty and Trey,
Yeah.
and I became good buddies with them. And once you meet one football player, like this is just a lesson to anybody who's going to university with a football program at their school. Once you meet one of them,
You
you're
know
gonna meet
all of
like 8 of them.
them. They come in packs.
That's so true though. Like
Yeah.
you got the wolf packs, you got the D line.
You got the guys from Montreal.
Yeah. No, for sure. And then you got the O line all hanging out, and the quarterbacks are sometimes they'll kind of flock with the receivers. Depends on the
Yeah,
QB.
quarterbacks are very low key most of the
Yeah.
time. It's mostly the big boys and the skill position guys.
Now, back to like the actual football in that rookie season, like the playing, like how did you kind of adjust to the new scheme, the new playbook so quickly?
Playbook, first of all, was tough because like it was a whole new language like of football. So that like took me a lot of time to get used to. Um and then like playing wise, like I didn't play a lot until I'd say like mid season almost.
Hmm.
But I still remember it was it our season opener? We played against York and like it was a blowout and I get in like in probably in the fourth quarter and like I get my first sack. Oh my god, I've never felt so much love in my life. Like I I just got up and I started celebrating. And like one thing about Coach V, if you know Coach V, he is not a flashy kind of guy.
Nah.
So I started celebrating. Coach V got me off the field. He's like, "What are you doing? You're looking like a moron out there." I was like, "Man, like this is just my swagger." Like, and so like on the next play, like it was like after that, like we were on kickoff, and like I go down and I hit the wall, and I still make the tackle, and I get up and I'm doing like the Bernie dance, and like everybody's getting lit, and like Coach V's like, "Get this fool off the field." I'm like, man, like, do you not know like what fun is? So like that was like I needed to like adjust myself to that just because like you know where I played in CJF, like yo, whenever there was a big play, like everybody like went crazy.
I mean, for the most part, though, that is kind of like the normal trend in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
sport. Coach B is just very much, yeah, I think it stems, and I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like it stems more so for like almost like a respect to the opponent
yeah. It is,
in
it
a
is, it
way.
is. Yeah, it is, it is. I mean, like I kind of like as the season went on, like I kind of like adapted to like Coach B, like after a big play, like they'll celebrate because it hurts them more.
Now, because you made it to one of the CFL combines, right? Because throughout all this process, like you're still striving for, okay, I want pro football to be my job.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what do you think really accredits yourself to getting to that combine, and how did you perform there? And then, more or less, to kind of tie everything together, what really do you think went into the fact of maybe, okay, hey, pro football might not be in the cards?
Well, even before the CFL combine, I went to an NFL regional combine in Minneapolis,
Hmm.
and like just to be there, honestly, like was just such a blessing. Like just to compete like against Americans and a few Canadians. So I did that. My numbers actually were better at the NFL than the CFL combine.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, but the thing was like they were 1 week apart, so like I didn't really get enough time to like rest and then like start over for the CFL combine. Um, but that off season, like going into the combine, like I kind of screwed up because I was only focused on like running. I didn't really focus on the football kind of side, and
Mm-hmm.
I take that blame like 100%. That was my fault. So when I got to the combine, like I was very sloppy. Like it wasn't cute. If I could just put it like that, it wasn't cute. And so I'm doing the drills with the D lines, and then coach from Saskatchewan came up to me and was like, "I want to see you practice with the linebackers." Mind you, then I was gassed. And he's putting us through drills like, yo, let's go left, right, up, down. And so like I'm doing it, like it's fine. And then we get to the one-on-ones, and I'm still upset till this day because I went against like the top drafted, like top ranked fullback or so, but he was running like a running back. So like that was kind of like it was kind of shitty on my end.
Mm-hmm.
But like again, I kind of screwed up the whole offseason because I didn't get myself an agent in time. I didn't prep enough in time. And so all of that like ended up me not going into the CFL pretty much. And like again, I take 100% of the blame. Like I don't blame anybody else. And so like even like when Jamie was going through the comment, I was like, yo, like make sure you get yourself an agent, make sure you get yourself the right coach, make sure you're doing a lot of football drills, like and just show them that you can ball. Don't be in your head too much. And you know, I just want to make sure like the guys after me learn from my mistakes. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm very happy I'm not playing in the CFL.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I can really tell that, because we started this conversation talking about football and the fact of, you saying how you were striving for that to be your career in pro football.
Hmm.
But there's definitely a lot more passion in your voice when you're talking about the other things like traveling and doing video and camera and like the TikToks and the social media and all that more so
Yeah,
than, the football.
yeah. Well, that too. Like, there's times like I miss it. I'm not gonna lie, but how do I say it without like, like the CFL, like with COVID happening right now, like the CFL did not really handle like the COVID situation pretty well. Like, I feel so bad for like all the guys that are in the CFL right now. Like they have nothing pretty much, and like they're out here looking for jobs, and so like I feel bad for them. Like not worth it. Like the way I see it, like I'm just happy like it didn't happen for me.
That you've almost kind of laid the framework of trying to put yourself in that headspace of who am I outside of Osas, the football player?
Correct. Like you know how like a lot of players like when they're done, like they're still hung over from football.
Hmm.
I was fortunate enough not to be hangover. Like I remember like when the draft happened, I was in Toronto. Like I was with the Twins. Like we traveled, and so like we went to Toronto, we went to Niagara, and like that kind of like set the step for me. Like okay, like yo, this not happening, but like what's next after football? And so like boom, finish school, visit like different places, and just like get to know yourself more. Because whether you like it or not, like during like those let's say 10 years that I played football, it was only football, football, school. So I didn't really get to know myself pretty much during that time. So yeah.
No, and I mean it's a tale as old as time, right? You see it over and over and over again. And I'm curious to see if we almost get to a point where maybe these programs, and who knows, there might be stuff like this out there now, but start opening up different interest levels and things of that
Hmm.
landscape, being like, hey, here's the off season now. We're gonna kind of like, what passions do you have? What do you think you'd like to do? What do you want to try? Like, we'll set you up in these different avenues, and then like, hey, maybe for yourself, it's like, okay, Osas, like, great season. Hey, a lot of sacks, way to go. Here's a camera now. You can travel to Banff, try out this whole photography,
Yeah.
videography thing that you want to do, And then that way, like you're almost like, oh, hey, I really like this during like your career and whatnot. So then you decide to maybe even grow on it, or you're like, you know what, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. Let's try this. And then once the playing days end, oh, okay, hey, I know I tried this, this, and this. I like that more so than that. But here is where I think I really, really enjoyed myself. So now, how can I make this a career?
Yeah, that is true. I feel like because I bought my camera. I'm trying to think when I bought my camera. I think it was like during my last season that I bought my camera.
Hmm.
And like one thing about me that like looking back in time was whenever we traveled for football games, I was always out taking pictures like with the old iPhones. Like I would always take pictures and I was just like, man, like it's really something that I really enjoy, you know? And so when I bought my first camera, I was like, yeah, like this like I don't regret it. Like I'm actually happy. And so like I feel like that kind of like helped me like so if I could give any advice to like, you know, the younger generation like for football players, find something you love like outside of football like you said, you know, like what do you like other than sports like, you know, do you like to eat, do you like to cook, you know, are you a TikTok kind of guy like, you know? I wish
It's
TikTok was around when we were playing football like
There'd definitely be some viral clips for sure from some of the snap
of
memories I've seen
course.
from you guys.
I mean,
But
you
hey,
went viral.
me?
Yeah.
When did I go viral?
I saw your TikTok. You went viral.
Which one? What are you talking
I'm about
about?
to pull it up right now.
I mean, I guess it's
92K,
everybody's.
92K likes. Where's the video? The one that has 10.9K views, 13.1K views. I hope you guys are listening, podcast. This guy is famous on TikTok.
I don't know about that. It's like there's not that many. Uh, I think I've gotten like 50,000 views the last like week on TikTok.
You're humble. You're being humble right now, which is
Nah,
fine.
no. I will say,
405,000 views on a video.
yeah, but I mean that's not viral in a sense. That's just
Excuse me.
no. I will say though, Greels Reels is doing real well on TikTok.
Is it?
Yeah, it's been performing well. I think I've posted like 12 of them, and we're at like over 60,000 views for the clips portion of it all. So
Shit. Okay.
yeah,
Those are
that.
fire shots, though.
Mhm. No, it's I don't know. It's one of those things where the thing that I actually always preach to is like people want like virality and they want like those massive numbers, but for the most part, just because like the internet is so big and there's so many people on it, you actually kind of forget how many people 400 people are, right? So even the fact
Yeah.
if you're getting like 20, 30 views, like, oh, that sucks in a way. Not really. Like
No.
if those 20 or 30, like imagine like those having like a Q and A night at a coffee shop
Hmm.
and 20 or 30 people are sat in the coffee shop listening. That's a good turnout for an event like that because
Yeah.
capacity is probably only 35, 40. So like you just,
Got.
hey, you sold out, like,
Yeah.
right? So
Eh,
it's all about perception, right?
that is true.
I like drop my pen.
Wait, you caught? Okay.
Yeah, I caught it. No, I mean, hey, what's next for OSAS? What are you trying to do? What are you aiming for?
Again, like I said in my video, I'm trying to get 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. That's one thing I'm striving for. Um, definitely gonna get back into photography. Like I put that on the back burner for a bit.
Mhm.
Cameras catching dust. Um, but yeah, trying to really push for that 1,000 subscriber mark this year. That would be like my goal set out for the year. Other than that, just continue spreading my smile because I like to smile. That sounds stupid if you're not watching the video. But honestly, like, um, again, goes back to just me, like in my everyday life. Like, I just try to smile all the time. Like,
Get that tattooed on your neck. I I want to.
I just want to smile. But yeah, just spread positivity into the world, man. Like, especially like in times like this, like just try to find like, your light. If if I have to be that light, I'll be your light. But yeah, YouTube. That's where I'm at right now.
Mhm. What I'm gonna try and challenge you a little bit here.
Oh,
What
by
kind
the
of
master himself.
what kind of content do you really want to like fixate on in that?
See, I was thinking about it, and I think I figured it out. Adventure and food mixed together. So,
Okay.
like, for example, let's say I was going back to Gatineau Park, like like how like they have those little small side businesses, like on the road, like
Yeah, like food carts and trucks
yeah,
and whatnot.
exactly. So I was thinking I might just start doing that, like stopping by at like food truck or whatever,
Hmm.
reviewing their food while still like being on an adventure. So trying to like put those two together because I feel like that's what I like to do. Like to eat and travel.
Simple man.
Yeah, just keep it simple. What about you? Before you
Uh,
ask me another question, I want to ask you.
yeah, for myself, I mean, I'm really more or less looking at fixating on the fact of separating different brands and goals and mindsets, right? So where, Greels Reels, like sports is my life and
Hmm.
it's always kind of been, everything that I have done, I like it's sport, right? So kind of taking a step back and separating myself from say that Greels Real side of it where it's the athletes and sports and whatnot, and then just fixating on the other interests that I have. And a big part of that also plays into the fact that there's not really much going on in the sport world with COVID. So I
Hmm.
kind of, I don't like sitting still for so long. So find myself a different avenue and then build on that, right? So I mean, for the most part, I've always been preaching my time in Ottawa that everybody needs to come to Newfoundland. It's such a great spot, tourism and whatnot. So now I'm just like, okay, you know what? Let's put my money where my mouth is and show people even more with like photo and video and be like, yeah,
Yeah.
see, like this is why, and get more of a sense to it. So I think it's that. I think my biggest fear in that realm of things has always been fixated and being forced to fixate and held into like a certain box,
Hmm.
which I really don't want. But the other part of that too, in terms of like, growing is consistency, right? And
Yeah.
it's not even consistency in the frequent, but it's kind of like the type of uploads and whatnot, right? So yeah, I think for myself, it's just more or less like separating like those two sides of things, and
Yeah.
really, because at the end of the day, too, it's not necessarily fair to the people who want to invest in you. And when I say invest, mean subscribe in their time,
Yeah.
right? Which, in my opinion, is honestly more important than money investment, right? Like money's whatever, time, the fact that people want to sit down and like consume your,
Watch you. Yeah.
take a part out of their day where they're listening to you or watching you, like that's more valuable to anything, right? So it's almost like a thank you to that person for investing in yourself. And like me, okay, kind of let's keep the content within a certain realm, so I'm gonna try and make sure that they can really enjoy it. And for the most part, you can't accomplish that when you have like these tourism style of videos for like 1 or 2 weeks, and then the next one is like this massive hour podcast with a football player that they have no interest in or anything like
Hmm.
that, right? So almost like bridging the gap and separating the two is
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at now.
That's smart. That's good. I like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Now I'll challenge you to more or less with in terms of the goal, right? You got that 1,000,
Hmm.
right? Try and make a goal that pairs with that isn't numerically driven. So something that's more of like a feeling or an accomplishment in that type of sense, right? Like I want like instead of like the 1,000 mark, it's like say a certain number of videos, I want them to be around like this and make me feel this and make people feel this, you know?
Oh, oh.
Because sometimes it's just like numbers, right? Like it's the same thing in like sport and analytics, right? It's like
Hmm.
you're like, man, I really want to have 10 sacks this season, right? So then anything below
10
that
sacks.
is a
Fail.
failure to yourself, right? But if you
Yeah.
change that dialect to being, I want to be an impact player for every game this season, then that's so subjective into what was an impact. So maybe if like you had a shitty day on the field, your demeanor and how you carried yourself in the locker room made you an impact player,
That
right?
is
So it's
true.
not necessarily tying yourself to the number and the statistics of, oh, I need to have 2 sacks today to feel accomplished. Like, no, hey, I was a good teammate and my mentality and my morale was up. And that is a big part of why we won today. Today was a success, right? It's a little bit more subjective.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't have thought about that.
No, I mean, I still am like, it's something that I'm trying to practice to bring myself into.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, and it's so ingrained, and especially in the sport world, right? It's like you're always looking at numbers, and everybody's always analyzing you on the numbers, right? Athletes, especially, it's like, oh, this guy hasn't scored in 3 games,
Hmm.
but it's like, he's oh, he hasn't scored in 3 games. He's not going to bring us to a championship. They're not in the locker room looking at, hey, through that 3 game spout, that guy was the first person in the locker room. He was the one sat down chatting for an hour with his teammate who was just going through some shit and helped him feel better about himself. And that was the guy who actually went out and got like 3 goals or 3 touchdowns, right? And
Yeah,
so there's things like that, once you try and like wire the mindset into that realm of things, because when like what's the point of say 1,000 subscribers if none of the videos did anything to anybody?
that's true.
But if you only gain 10 and then 1,000 people because of those 10 like that, you only gain 10, you put it out, but now they're not necessarily subscribed to you, but 1,000 people because of what you've put out have completely changed their lives,
Yeah,
right? Like that's
yeah.
something that's so it's almost a healthier mindset, in my opinion, anyway, because it's
It
like
is, it is, it
now
is.
that way you're just not feeling let down when you don't hit those specific like numerical numbers.
Yeah. Oh,
Makes you think, eh?
yeah. Preach. You should preach.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
I gotta ask you, what camera are you using? Why is your quality so crisp?
Yeah, I got my 1DX Mark II hooked up with like,
What?
yeah, yeah. You hook it up through the HDMI, and it comes through and it feeds through. So
Wow. Next time I'm on a podcast, I'm gonna hook up my camera too. Then.
yeah, you got to download some software
Uh.
on like Canon and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you just download from. It's a simple video. It's like it takes it all through. It takes like 2 seconds, but yeah, it's not bad. I'll plug the YouTube. Anybody listening audio wise on Apple or Spotify podcasts, if you actually hop on over to YouTube, you can see this great quality webcam video that OSAS is referencing right now.
That's that 4K quality right there.
Yeah, I don't even have it in 4K. 4K is overrated. I'll tell you this now. A lot of
Oh,
people,
really?
man, people kill themselves like with the upload times and just trying to
Yeah.
get things out there in 4K when people are watching it on their iPhone in 480p.
1080p.
Not even 1080. I wish people would watch it in 1080.
Listen, every time I'm on YouTube, my set like it has to be 1080p or else I'm not watching the video.
Oh man. All right, listen. Wait, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna ask you, you do you edit with Premiere Pro or what do you use to edit your videos?
I have like the like Adobe Creative Suite, so like Adobe Premiere. I'm trying to
Yeah.
get in a little bit more into like After Effects and whatnot, but yeah, so I'm Premiere. At work though, I'm like using Avid and like building on that software. That's basically Avid. It's kind of the most standard software for like television and like
Oh,
movie broadcast, like Hollywood, more or less, I guess.
yeah,
A lot of people use it for that. So I'm like trying to like relearn. So it's funny because you are always learning, right? So
yeah.
almost like I'm back to square one in that realm with of things. But yeah.
But how do you like do it like not to lose quality when you upload?
Um
So like for example, like when I'm done editing my video on Premiere Pro and I want to
mhm.
upload it to YouTube, I feel like I lose like video quality when uploading.
Yeah, so for the most part, that's just like how your export settings and things like that. So there's like a presets within Adobe, so you could just maybe export it at like the YouTube 2160 like HD preset.
Hmm.
Also, like hitting the box, there's like a box of like maximum render quality and
Yeah,
things like that. So there's little different things. There's some like great YouTube videos that kind of break it down a little bit more.
yeah. I usually watch if I'm not on Twitch, I'm usually on YouTube just watching a bunch of videos. I live on YouTube.
Yeah, eh?
Yeah,
No, it's a good platform. It's got its pros and cons for sure.
yeah.
It's fun, but yeah, man, this has kind of turned into more of a social media chat than
I know.
than a
I tend
sports
to do
one.
that sometimes.
Well, it all leeways. I'm curious, actually, how do you, if you bought into personal branding, so you were putting out a bunch of high quality photos and videos on your Instagram as a high school football player, well documented your whole journey, high school, Cégep, U Ottawa, those NFL, CFL combines. What do you think that would look like? And how do you think it would have paid off in some form of way?
Yeah, it would have.
Yeah.
It would have definitely paid off. Just like to see like where you started and where you ended up. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, would have definitely paid. Yeah, just trying to think. Yeah, it would have definitely like just no, because I'm just thinking back. Like, started off playing soccer, played basketball. Ooh, all of a sudden plays football. Runs track at the same time he's playing football. Quits track to run to just play football. Doesn't know anything about football. Joins Team Quebec. Team Quebec. Now he's like this football
Hmm.
guy.
And now you have all these memories to look back on it now too and whatnot.
Yeah. Wow. I wish.
Yeah,
I
it's
wish that was documented.
hmm no, it's cool. All right, man. Hey, like this has basically been everything that I wanted to run down through and like a little bit more on the social media side. This is the part of the show where I just hand it over to you. I mean, it's your show. You can chat about whatever you want. I know we've ran through a lot, but yeah, any last words, life message, childhood story, whatever you want.
Hey man, just go out there, spread love. That's all I gotta say. Spread love and positivity, and just we gonna get through COVID for real, man. That's all I gotta say.
All right. I love it,
My
man.
my guy, thank you so much for having me, man.
Hey, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Okay, that's it for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode with Osas. I really do appreciate you guys listening to the whole thing. Please, if you liked it, share it with a friend. Leave us a 5-star review. Any of that, like I said, it really helps. In the meantime, stay best kind.